Hello everybody, welcome to Profit Mission Control. This is Matt Trader coming to you. Today is Saturday, March 2nd, 2019. And I'm coming today to go over the weekly recap for the week that ended March 1st, 2019. A little bit of a frustrating week since we lost $776 trading through about 7 launches. And it's a little bit frustrating because some of the stocks that I decided to hold on to with a potential extra profit window ended up being losers. And the ones that I decided to hold a little bit longer after they hit the abort price ended up being also more losers. In addition, some of the stocks that I got out early ended up going higher after I got out of them. So it always comes, this is part of the whole process. Frustration is always one of the emotions that you're going to feel while you're trading. But nonetheless, as long as you have a plan and a process and you stick to it as much as you can, you should end up in the winning zone on the long run. So with that, let's go over some of the trades. So gonna quickly go over our first red week since we started the $50,000 challenge. And like I said, it's almost like spinning our wheels because last week we had about $725 and this week we gave about the same back. Total 7 launches, 3 winners, 4 losers. So obviously our accuracy got a hit, 43% accuracy for the week. Profit per share was about negative 60 cents. And our profit factor obviously is 0.59, which is nothing to be proud about. Profit to risk for the plan was 126%. We ended up at 78%. So the combination of profit to loss actual and your accuracy puts us in the red zone. And that's why we actually lost money this week. Not only that, there's also a couple of stocks that I'm holding that we'll talk about in the in-flight that are actually below their launch price, as well as in one case below its abort price. So these are kind of unrealized losses, so the actual loss is a little bit bigger than the 775, but the hope is that next week we will actually recover and a couple of those open positions will turn out to be winners. So we made profit on FTCH ABEO AAOI, and then we have losses on ATKR WLH MTDR and MTW. So let's switch to the charts and go over some of these activities of some of the launches and talk about them in particular. So the first, we'll talk about the winners. First winner, which was frustrating, is FTCH. So that has been definitely a hot stock over the last few sessions. I would say since we broke from this pivot level here at $21 roughly, this thing has been going up nonstop. Now it came on our radar for the launch list on February 26th, based on obviously this price action here. It was a clear breakout from a consolidation area over a long period of time. This stock has a large, relatively large average true range, in some cases a 1.72, 80 cents. So it ranges a good dollar within a single session. And actually that was starting to swell up as well. So the idea was to put on the launch list after we a break of the high of this day here with a potential push to this pivot level, this natural pivot level. I mean, it was very clear. It was a huge window opportunity of profit, but at the same time, because the stock, like I said, has a large ATR, the abort price was also put a little bit down here. So we had almost a full dollar of a loss. And because we had a full dollar of a loss, the number of shares automatically scaled back. So we had only 500 shares. Now the frustrating part is this stock, once it started, buyers piled in, it just didn't quit. It kept going up and up and up. I ended up taking profit at the planned profit area of $23.10, so about 15 cents less than my initial profit target. And then this thing just continued to go. Now, sometimes when I'm managing a portfolio of multiple open positions, depending on how the day is going, I change my sense a little bit of the market. If the market is sort of sluggish, moving sideways, or at least there's some selling pressure, then you definitely don't want to have your risk on mode on. So you minimize your risk, so you take profit as soon as you can, and you also try to cut your losses as soon as you can. And this was a case where I took off my profit because it was so extended, it was above its average true range, and I didn't want to welcome my stay. But apparently a strong stock, sometimes it's just very strong. And if you look what it did the next two sessions, it continued its climb all the way to almost $26. So an entry at $22 could have given you a 4-point win on the stock. And then we had a gap up after earnings. This was just Friday. Look where it opened. It opened all the way at $28 and made an intraday high of almost $31.50, which is amazing. It's coming close to its all-time high. This is a fairly new stock that came out back in September, so it's a new IPO, and obviously it's very, very hot. So this is definitely worth keeping an eye on. There's a huge gap here, which might be filled over the next two sessions before continuing higher, or just might go crazy again and break the all-time high. Time will tell, but it's something which is obvious that there was a lot of buyers stepping on this stock. So that was one frustrating stock, that we didn't capture as much profit as we could have on this one. Next one was ABEO. ABEO, kind of interesting stock because I had to change my plan midway through the week, actually on the launch day. So this stock has been sort of flatlining for a long time, with occasional pops here and there that seem to come back, which is fine. That's kind of enough profit window to make it attractive. But it did come on my launch list here on 26th of February as well, based on the price action on the 25th. So on the 25th, this thing ripped really, really high with above average volume. So, almost 5 times the average daily volume. So very something to notice. And it also broke above most of its daily moving averages, as well as a crossover of the 5 to the 9-day moving average. So the initial plan was to break up the high of this day with a push to this pivot level somewhere in this range. Now, on the 26th, I saw the price action. This was a strong stock. It was pulling down, and I said I'm going to adjust the plan for the 27th, because it pulled back and we still were above the 5-day and 50-day moving average. And I said, okay, well, now it has more potential to go to this pivot rather than this pivot if it can break the high of this day. So it was an intraday high actually on this chart on the 26th. So on the 27th, as I modified the plan, the idea was to enter at 717 and then push hopefully to this level at 762 or 763 with an abort price at 680. Abort price at 680, yeah. So this thing kind of stalled a little bit after we entered, pulled back, and then on Thursday, which was kind of a sluggish day, nothing really happened. It kept going back and forth. It looked like it wanted to give up some of these daily moving averages, but then yesterday, Friday, the market was very strong, and this thing just completed the entire profit window within the same session. And it looked like there were a lot of selling pressure coming in. As soon as it made a move higher, sellers would come in. So I wasn't taking my chance, and I did get out at 760. Well, so here's the story. I got out some of my shares around 751 or 52, and then I let the rest ride to 763. And that's why my average exit is really at 754 for my entire position. Now, the stock does look strong, but also it has always rejected this area. So it will take some inertia to bring it above this pivot area and above the 100-day moving average. It still has a down sloping, 50, 100, 200. So overall, it's not a healthy stock. It just might have a short period recovery area that you might be wanting to keep an eye on. It doesn't trade much volume anyway, so it's not something I would be totally attractive to long term. All right, so these were the three winners. Now we're going to talk about the losers. And the first loser was ATKR. ATKR came in our launch list on February 16th, so it's been there for a while. Okay, so this is, yeah, February 19th, I apologize. Based on the price action on the February the 15th. So this looked like it was staging an up, kind of a reversal. This thing sold off and started showing a trend reversal upwards. So it was trending upwards, and we had a big pop this day and then rejected, came down, corrected, bounced off the 20-day moving, sorry, the 20-day moving average, and then went back up. And on this day here, it showed some strong buying after, you know, all this earning activity, above average volume. So the play there was to break the high of this day with a potential push somewhere along this big tail of this candle, and it corresponds to this pivot level, you know, back here in October. So that was the intent. Everything looked fine, above average volume, you know, uptrending daily moving averages, good profit window opportunity, and a clear stop loss. So what happened was this thing launched on the 20th, and at 24.23, it made a little bit of a move to 24.47. I decided to wait on this one because it looked strong. However, it didn't cooperate, and we ended up turning back and aborting at 23.76. So it hit our exit price here on the same day. No, actually on the 26th. So right here, this is where we exited. So yeah, I held on to this one for several days, obviously, and ended up violating the 5 and the 9 moving averages, and then continued sell off. So I got it right at the right time. Too bad because it looked really strong, but sometimes, you know, the best setups don't work. Next one is WLH. Again, this is another stock that was showing some strength since the low here in December. Uptrended, you know, corrected a little bit, continued to create a new higher high, you know, higher low, higher high, another higher high. So it came on our radar right here on this 22nd of February, and for a launch on the 25th. So based on this Friday data, this was a Monday stock on the 25th to launch at 1925 above the high of this candle, with a potential push to this sort of level here, a prior resistance level, which would, you know, offer some kind of a profit factor there. So what ended up happening is it did launch, but then it just rejected right away and ended up getting out with a loss at the maybe 4 cents below the intended abort price. So the abort price was at 14.91, ended up exiting at 14.87. So it didn't work out. It looks like the pullback is on below average volume. So if it still holds on the 20-day moving average, this thing might, you know, continue back higher. The 50-day moving average is curling up. The 100 seems to sort of flattening up and potentially starting to turn up. So it might just go sideways for a while before popping back up. So maybe worth putting your, you know, keeping an eye on this stock longer term. MTDR. So MTDR continues on the theme of minerals and metals that seems to be selling off lately. It also had earnings back on the 26th. So this thing came on our radar for February 19th. Based on the price action here. So let me zoom in a little bit. So the way I've been watching this stock for a while actually, and it showed some strength coming up to this level and get rejected and then came down. Then it came on my radar here on the 25th. It looks like it potentially wanted to continue this cup. If you also draw a little, you know, bull flag here, that was kind of the idea that you know, if you break this bull flag, then, you know, we can push to this pivot level here, right? So around 2015, 2020, with a launch above the high of this day. So the next day, so this actually did launch on March 1st. Which one is this MTDR? Sorry, on February 27th. So right here, yeah. So it did launch on this date here. Didn't take it, I think, on the 26th. I took it on the 27th, and with the intent to go to the profit target, but instead we ended up, it moved up a little bit, you know, almost 70% of the way to the profit target. Could have exited at 1985, 1987 with a nice profit, but I said no. This stock is strong. Why would it continue at least to the pivot level? You know, $20 at least, and unfortunately that didn't happen. Sellers just came in, took this down, and ended up on Friday painfully had to exit. Now there's another stock that I'm holding, FTA. I think we're going to talk about it in flight. It's another same sector that also sold off very, very strong after entry, and I decided to hold on that one just a little bit because it was coming close to its 100-day moving average with a possible bounce from there. I didn't want the same issue to happen with MTDR, so I did honor my abort price and got out at 1870. The intended abort price was 1885, but this was just looking really ugly on Friday. Everything else was moving high, and all the minerals and gold and silver were selling off, so I just got out of this one with a loss. A little bit more than I wanted to, but still within, you know, I'd say a factor of safety. So didn't work out. I think the stock is going to continue higher after consolidation. Just my my 2 cents there. It probably will find support here, and I actually added this one in my 401k. So I'm looking forward to potential reversal here, at least, you know, 50 cents to $1. To recoup some of the losses here on this account. And then the last stock, which was also another disappointment, MTW. MTW is definitely a strong stock. There's a potential very strong interest in it. If you look at it, it's been forming a pretty long cup, and we've traded this twice before over the last 3 weeks. First week we lost on it. Second week we made money on it. This week we lost on it again. The idea there, based on the scanning on the 22nd, so this came on our list for 25th, right here. So the idea was to, you know, this is just continuing up. We had some rejection here, but then the follow day there was a nice follow up, and we were above all our daily moving averages. And we were coming close to this pivot area. So this is a natural pivot area here where we had prior resistance. So the idea that if we were able to break that, then we could potentially push. Sorry, right down here, yeah. So if we broke the high of this day, then we have room to go to this pivot. Okay, so very disappointing. Why? Because I did enter the stock at the planned entry price at 1926, right here. Rode the stock all the way to its actual profit target, which was 1980. However, this is not a very liquid stock, so you know we were trading about less than 1 million shares per day. So let's go to 5 minute. What happened there? So my exit, planned exit, was at 1980, and this looks like it was a strong stock and making, you know, just on the daily it looked very strong, intraday it looked very strong. So number one, my automated sell never hit because it touched the 980, I think 979 maybe for that day, and then pulled back. So had it hit the 1980, the automatic order would have gone in, but it didn't. And at the same time, I thought it was going to pull back and continue higher, but this case it pulled back, you know, bounced off a little bit, waited for to get my profit back. It never worked, and it sold off, and then ended up having to actually abort. So that was the frustrating part, because I ended up exiting on the 26th. So the second day here just continued to sell off. So it's correcting. However, the stock is very strong, and I absolutely did add to this position in my 401k. Why? Because I think it's just forming a handle here, And I think we talked about it in last week's video, which I recorded earlier today. But this thing is looks very, very strong. It'll hit where it's supposed to hit. Usually for a true cup and handle, you get a little bit of a break above the prior resistance. In this case, it pulled back before that, but then on Friday it was showing some signs of support, at least on the 90-day moving average. It kind of recouped that or recovered that level. So there is a potential for this thing to go higher and curl back up and maybe challenge the 200-day moving average next. So that's what I'm counting on, and that's why I got it in my 401k. But time will tell. The overall market condition, the trade talks with China, all of these things could influence what the stock wants to do. It just looks like a strong, healthy stock. So that was it. The outcome of this week is the fact that we ended up with negative on the portfolio. The portfolio, one step back on the portfolio, and I do have a few stocks that I want to talk about. Let's go back to the charts here. So on the charts we have statistics for the week. So after this is the end of the 4th week, we had 34 launches to date. Our accuracy is still 70%, very healthy. Our profit per share 5.58. Our profit factor is slightly less where I want it to be. I want it to be at 2.0 or higher, and this week obviously put a dent in that a little bit, as well as in the accuracy. So we'll just continue to move along, and we'll see what the market throws out next week. Hopefully good things will happen. So here's the list of stocks that are currently in flight, and I do want to talk about at least these two, VKTX and EAF, because in these two cases I did violate my abort price. In one case it's helping, the other one is not. So let's talk about VKTX. So these are stocks that are currently in flight. I will switch back to my chart here. Let me hide this guy here. And I'm going to go to VKTX. So VKTX, why was I first of all interested in the stock? Well, I'm interested in the stock because it came on a heat alert, which is my second best performing scanner, and it has actually launched all the way back here on February 12th. So we've been holding this stock for quite a few days, almost 2 weeks now. So this thing launched at $9.12, pushed higher, didn't reach our profit target of $9.73. I'm modifying my profit target actually to $10, all the way to this level here, this pivot level. And what I did was I actually reduced my share size. So I'm trying to put a horizontal line. There you go. So this thing didn't quite make it to my initial profit target, and then after that it kind of pulled back and violated the abort price multiple times, even very strongly here by 60 cents. But my theory was that this was just trying to close this gap. The stock had huge average volume. When you have this level of above average volume, this is an indication that long term there's something going on, that this stock will potentially go higher. And that's the case with most of my moonshot alerts and the heat alert. Moonshots more than the heat alert, but the heat alert sometimes also kind of predicts very strong long-term movers. So I held on to this one. My initial plan, I believe, was closer to 800 or 900 shares, so I reduced my share size to 600. I did exit one day here. I can't remember last week or the week before, where I actually exited and came back in right away because I just thought this one is strong to let go. This day here was frustrating because pre-market, it actually hit my initial profit target or very close to it. It doesn't show on this chart, but it was pre-market. It did hit 973 and then pulled back and sold off as soon as the market opened. And that's where we had this major dip, which I think is really kind of just market makers kind of shaking out people who bought through this gap here, as well as the need to close this gap. So the gap has been closed. What happened the next day? We recovered. What happens the next day? Slightly recovered more, and so forth. So it's still choppy. There's nothing that says this won't, fail and crash and come back all the way to 770 or below even. All that is possible. But I decided to hold on this one, and we will see what happens next week. I will certainly not let it fall below the 830. Let's say I have my current stop loss at 825. So 825, which is slightly below this 50-day moving average. That'll be my my exit. Maybe a break of 821 here. This is a prior support. But I'm predicting, although my job is not to predict, but the way the stock is behaving, that it potentially will go back and hopefully give us some gains. So that's why I decided to hold on this one. The second one I'm guilty on is EAF, and EAF is another minerals mining type stock that was showing a lot of strength, and then for the last 4 days, just there was some sell-off in the minerals in general. That's why I kind of decided. I mean, we had MTDR and I exited that one. This one, for some reason, it looked like it was testing its 100-day here. So we entered the stock on February 25th based on this price action. It was going uptrend. It broke the 100-day moving average. A break of this daily high would give us an opportunity for profit window all the way to this pivot. I mean, we had a huge red candle here, so there's a lot of supply that got depleted, so kind of a resistance free area. However, this thing made it halfway through our profit window after launch, and then came back because the overall sector is selling off, and it broke my abort price here on the 28th, and then on Friday things were even worse. I was almost putting the sell order right here at $14 when this thing bounced back and actually pulled almost close to the low of this day, intraday, and then pushed a little bit higher. So I just decided to hold on this one more day. So we'll see what Monday brings. This looks like a pullback with below average volume compared to all this buildup of volume. I would have liked it to at least test this pivot area, which it hasn't done yet. Now, whether we get a punch back on Monday or Tuesday of next week to recover, or it continues to go down, obviously a break of 1403 takes me out of this stock for sure, which is kind of this prior support here. I mean, you could argue 1395. You could argue there's, this band here is an area where you should find buyers come in and pick it up, but everything is possible. So close watching this one very closely, as well as VKTX. The next one that's currently in flight and is in healthy flight, or at least hasn't violated our abort price yet, is INFN. It is frustrating a little bit because since we entered, all it's been doing is just selling off. It still hasn't hit officially the abort price, so I'm sticking to the plan on this one. It is in a gap area, so there's a lot of shares exchanging hands, people that believe this gap is going to be filled and continue higher to try to buy, and then people that shorted the stock, they don't want to necessarily see their themselves being stopped out of their shorts. So the stock came on our radar here on the 22nd. So we put it on the launch list for the 25th. The idea there was to basically break an intraday point, not all the way to the high, but intraday level that seemed like reasonable compared to if you look on the left, because we're in a gap area, you can pick your entry point really. With a potential push here to 575 at least, which was a prior resistance all the way back here, which offered a good window. Let's see here. So 548 to 610 actually. So the goal here is to bring profit all the way to 610. Anyway, so we entered the stock here on the 25th, but then, like I said, it made it halfway through to 574. Could have taken profit there. Didn't. It sold off, it sold off, and it sold off. But again, the volume is a little bit on the higher side. The stock is only ranges about 30 cents or so. So, you know, it doesn't make crazy moves other than like these days here where it moved almost 75, 80 cents. So I'm still holding on to it. It didn't break, you know, it's found some buyers below the 9 daily moving average. So we'll see. I mean, we have some window all the way to 498, which is our stop loss on this one. Looks like it's pulling back a little bit, but potentially might reverse and, you know, continue to close this gap. We'll see. It had earnings, so earnings are behind it. The only thing I don't like it is that the stock is, you know, a $5 stock, and I don't really trust stocks that are below $10 in general. Sometimes they offer good setups, and this one, in this case, that's why I took it, but it's looking like it might stop me out next week. We'll see. The last one I'm currently in flight is KBR. Obviously, you could look, KBR is a very strong, after the sell-off, started recovery. 5-8 crossover, continues higher. The 5 still above the 8, so uptrending for sure. Everything's sloping up. We had earnings here on this 26th. Now, this stock came on the launch list on the 27th. I'm not sure why this is here. This is wrong. So my apologies on that. Push this back all the way here to 27. And the idea there was to launch at 1966 with a profit window at 2020 and a board at 1918. So, like I said, this came on our radar here based on this green bullish engulfing candle that was corresponding to an earnings date. Obviously, good earnings, above average volume. I like that. Broke its 200-day moving average, so very attractive stock, and it has room to at least kind of this pivot level here, somewhere around this range. That's where I put my profit target at 2020. So the idea that it would break the high of this candle, which it did, it pushed higher again halfway through the profit window, but refused to give me all my profit window. You know, I had multiple times to exit. Even as close as yesterday, hit 1997. I still wanted to squeeze that 20 cent more. Maybe I should have stopped. It looked like $20.11 might be the real resistance. I'm hoping that you know, we try to challenge that hopefully next week without a major pullback. If not, I'll probably exit around $20 if it ever hits there again and just take my profit on that one. All right, so that's the current stocks in flight. I will not go over the stocks that are currently waiting for launch. You can take a look at these setups. I might talk about in a separate video as I discuss the launch list for Monday. Once I get that done, I've seen a couple of comments in my prior video asking me to go over the new stocks that I put on the launch list for the following day, and I will try and do that, like meaning that every night as I create my launch list, I might actually come back and talk about those potential launch candidates for the following day. I can't promise 100% I'm going to do that, but at least I'll try over the weekend to do the one for Monday, so you guys have kind of an idea of what stocks that I picked and why I picked them. These are stocks that are currently waiting for launch, so the launch price hasn't struck yet. Some of them are a little bit far away from that launch price. Some of them are closer. I still think the setups are good. That's why I still continue to keep them. So keep an eye on those, and we'll see what happens next week. With that, just a reminder about trade ideas. We got a 15% savings code for it. Trade with TI, and you can go to my link here, bit.ly/Holly for you. And this supports the channel, supports me to be able to provide this content for you for free. And with that, I thank you for the time. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. If you are interested in more information about this channel, what we provide, please subscribe. And we hope that you guys have a fantastic rest of the weekend, and we'll see you Monday with the market open. Take care, guys.